Hey everybody, welcome back. So today we're going to start talking about Linux. And in this lesson, we're really just going to scratch the surface of what Linux is about. We're going to have other lessons on the topic, and we're like gradually going to go more in depth around it. We're going to start using some commands in the command line and so on and so forth. So for now, we're just really going to talk about what it is. Now, as you probably already know, Linux is an operating system, and in that regard, you could compare it to other OSs like Microsoft Windows or Mac OS and so on. So if you're really new to Linux and you've never used it before, but you probably at least heard of it, something of importance is to understand what its applications are, where it's being used, right? So this is why here we're giving like a quick list of popular Linux applications. So first of all, it's being used in servers, and it's being used in servers a lot. So whether you're talking about web servers or other kinds of servers, Linux is really out there, really popular. There's like a big battle going on between Microsoft Server and Linux in that regard, and we're not really going to go in depth around the the pros and cons of each right now, because they both have different strengths and weaknesses. But just know that it's a very popular server operating system. Then you have end user machines. Despite not necessarily be the first application of Linux that comes to mind, but this doesn't mean that it's not out there as well. You could use Linux as your daily operating system without any issues. As a matter of fact, there are even whole companies and government institutions out there who are using Linux as their main OS, as their main desktop OS, for example. So this, of course, comes with its own um, limitations in some regards, and it also comes with a lot of a lot of pros to it too. But just know that it is a possible application of Linux. Then you have firmware. And when we talk about firmware, think of things like smart devices, think of your home routers operating system. So Linux is very popular with firmware. Cloud and virtualization, we've talked about cloud before. We're going to talk more about it down the road. Linux is definitely popular with cloud environments, and virtualization. Of course, if you want, you could stand up right now a Linux server even on your own laptop, right? If you use a Type 2 hypervisor, you could literally do that. So as you can see, there are a lot of different applications of Linux, and it's important then that you understand each one of them. We're going to focus mainly on its server use, but again, you should be aware of the other ones as well. Okay, let's give some quick examples of different Linux server operating systems or different flavors of Linux as a server operating system. So first of all, you have CentOS, and CentOS, a very popular one. We're actually going to use it in some of our hands-on labs when we go hands-on with Linux in one of the lessons to come. So you see what it actually looks like when we get there. Then you have RHEL, or Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So if we're talking about Linux in a corporate environment or an enterprise environment, it's very likely that you're going to encounter a Red Hat server. By the way, they do have a very good certification program. So if you decide that you want to get Linux certified, their certifications are some of the ones that you might want to check out. They have Ubuntu server, and Ubuntu, by the way, is one of the very popular desktop Linux OSs. So this is actually the other list that I have for you here. Examples of Linux of popular Linux desktop operating systems. Debian, very popular. Ubuntu are probably one of the most popular ones, by the way. If you're starting with, if you're starting with Linux as your desktop OS, Ubuntu is very likely to be your choice because it's very intuitive. It's definitely very user friendly. So if you want to like just get a taste of what Linux is about, you might want to go with Ubuntu at least initially. Kali Linux, by the way, is an interesting one because it's actually a security-centric Linux operating system. So what I mean is that Kali is all about information security related tools. So whether you're talking about penetration testing tools or whether you're talking about forensic tools, Kali Linux has a lot of this built in. So you might see people who are doing things like people who have let's say a job title of penetration tester or a SOC analyst or a forensic analyst. All of these people would make use of Kali Linux. So it's popular for information security related work. Okay, so at this point, you might have wondered, all right, but why did we give examples of different Linux operating systems? Isn't Linux an operating system on its own? And the answer is yes and no, right? So you have the so-called Linux kernel, and on top of it, you have a lot of different Linux flavors or Linux distributions, as they are called. And if you want to use Linux, you would want to pick one of them. So you're not installing, or you're not really using Linux per se. You're using a particular distribution or particular flavor of Linux, depending on what you want to use Linux for. Okay, and these distributions, they all fall under a particular group or family of distributions, as you might encounter them. And here we're really just giving a quick list of what those look like. So you have the ones that are Debian based, and such distributions are Ubuntu and Linux Mint, Kali Linux, which we've already mentioned, and so on. Then you have the Red Hat based ones, and here you'll find ones like CentOS, which we've already said that we're going to get hands-on with in another lesson. Fedora, a very popular desktop distribution, Oracle Linux, and so on. You also have the Arch-based ones. Here is, for example, Manjaro, and you also have some other ones as well. So please make sure you understand what a distribution is, and you don't have to be familiar with all of these, because keep in mind that the list of Linux distributions that are out there is really, really long, and you really don't have to know them all. I don't know if anyone even does, right? But you do have to be familiar with what the most popular ones are called, and you do have to know how to work with at least one of them, because this is what we're going to do in one of the lessons to come to. Okay. All right. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.